I don't care how you call it, pronounce it, but we say PRIMIS.
On the mic with Mike, ESPN Richmond. That's where we are. Coming to you from PRIMIS, the headquarters here. It's On the Mic with Mike, the premier business radio program around. I'm your host, Mike King. I appreciate you being here with me. The views expressed here of mine have no connection to, support, of agreement with any other host, information, or ads on the station. I don't work for the station. My program just airs there on a daily basis, and I'm grateful of that. I'd like to thank our show sponsors, Tom Childry, the credit card guy, Andy Taylor, Junk Luggers, Mom Michelle's Cafe, and we have a new partner who's in with us. Well, Andy Taylor, got to remember him. Fast Signs. He does the outstanding artwork behind me, as well as SD's Trucking. They've come on board to help us move the mission along. On the Mic with Mike, we highlight partnerships, people, social enterprise. We also touch on some issues of the day. As I said, we're coming to you from PRIMIS Bank, but we're here with the good friend of the program. What happens is we leave the light on for you, and Andrea came back. So Andrea Starr of the Ford Foundation, welcome back.
Thank you so much, Mike. Excited to be here.
Right, we meet in different locations. What you're doing, all right, so really quickly, give the elevator pitch for what the Ford Foundation is. I know, but we want our listeners to get it once again, because I was in the Army. So you got to tell people what you're going to tell them. You're going to tell them, and you're going to tell them what you told them.
I gotcha.
There we go. Here you go.
So I am the executive director of Ford Foundation, which is a local nonprofit here in the greater Richmond area that works to support single parents that have encountered some type of life-altering event, which has resulted in financial crisis. So we are working with them to be able to provide them education and support and empowerment, all the things that they need, a sense of community as they are going through this journey.
As we always say, the childcare aspect is something that people don't get. That's not one that first and foremost comes to mind, but that's a hindrance. That stops a lot of things from happening.
It does. And, we actually are in the midst of a childcare crisis in America. Childcare costs are astronomical, and they are a 100% necessity for a single parent family. And you're looking at, on average, about 34% of household income for a single parent that is going towards childcare expenses. So for us to be able to provide them a childcare subsidy is huge. It allows them a little bit of financial freedom and flexibility to focus on some of the other responsibilities that they have.
On the Mic with Mike, we're here at PRIMIS Bank. So I always say change in the world ain't cheap, easy, or free. Somebody has to pay for it. And so you're out there, there's 1,000 or more nonprofits. Everyone's out there doing great business.
We are.
But now someone has to get the word out there. And I see Andrea Starr all over the place doing some really amazing things. She says, hey, Mike, come on, let's go to PRIMIS Bank. And here we are. So who are we here with? What are we doing at PRIMIS?
We are here with the incredible CEO, Dennis Sember, who I had the distinct pleasure of being introduced to from one of our board members. And Dennis and I had connected last summer and had the opportunity to have a really honest and raw conversation about some of the challenges that our families were facing. And Dennis has a very personal story that was aligned to our mission, and he felt very connected to and was 100% invested in wanting to be able to support us and help.
Sir, welcome. Thank you for the support. Alrighty, we're going to start off with the PRIMIS Bank. I always say to people, the elevator pitch, to let people know who you guys are and what you do.
All right, Mike, I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate Andrea's introduction and this opportunity that she brought to us. PRIMIS Bank's about 20 years old. We are a $3.5 billion community bank. We do banking the old-fashioned way, and we also do banking sort of a new way with all kinds of technology, where we sort of bring digital solutions to small businesses and consumers that generally provides better revenue opportunities, lower cost banking, but with all of the customer touch that you'd expect walking in a branch. So we're more digital and more digitally focused than our competition, but we still do old-fashioned community banking. We're really all over Virginia, Northern Virginia, Southern Maryland, the whole DMV, MSA. We're in Richmond. We're a little out towards Hampton Roads. So
let's talk about, so obviously you're coming on board to help out the Ford Foundation. Let's talk about the DNA and culture of supporting the community, your community bank. Let's talk about why that's so important for you guys to support an organization like the Ford Foundation.
Well, I mean, I'd say there's two things. One is a personal connection. I mean, you need a leader, and I will just stop for a second and give Andrea a big shout out that rarely, I mean, I've in my lifetime of being CEO and at the top of an organization, I've found nonprofits and civic groups, and they are only as good as their leader and their leader's vision and passion for what they're doing. And she's about as good as I found.
She's good. She's
about
good.
as good as what I found.
And she doesn't stop either.
And she's meek enough that she doesn't like me bragging on her. So
That's
you're going to
it.
be fine.
That's it. Because she'll get on you because she's passionate about what she does and she explains it. We've been rocking since I was down in Chester. I used to be on a conservative station in Chester where the landmark was the dumpster. It's like, where's the station? I can't find it. Do you see that dumpster out there? It's the blue one. That's where we are. So through the years, I've seen what they've done, always impressed with it. And that's what happens when somebody who's a dynamic leader. All right, Andrew,
Okay.
we're here. Okay, go ahead.
Let me finish.
See,
Okay. The connection, the reason we care about the community, or why is it that an organization or a for-profit business would do that? I mean, it's a personal connection. So something in me personally that makes me want to do this. But secondly, just as important, the organization needs some type of civic focus. I mean, we are a for-profit business. Our shareholders want us to make as much money as possible, grow as fast as possible. But, and so you can kind of get lost in the materialistic form of that. And so I think a leader needs to drive his company to be civically minded as well. Andrea is true. Andrea is right. I do have a personal connection. I don't know if you want me to.
If you want to.
Okay. Our connection to single mothers, and really what brought me to Andrea is 75 years ago this year, my dad's dad walked out on it. Left my dad, who was 5 years old, and his mother, who had no training, no way of providing for the family, left her destitute. Left him in a bad place, just up and walked out. My dad never saw his dad again, really until the day he passed away. My dad's still alive, his dad. My dad and his mother would have lived a terrible life. I mean, they were set up for something terrible, but they had some neighbors that found out about what happened just a few days later and took them in, put them in an apartment above their garage, cared for them, loved them, bought them groceries, got my dad in school, mentored my dad, got my grandmother some training, got her a job. I mean, just set them off on a different path than they would have otherwise. My dad ended up going to college, got some advanced degrees, had a very successful career, married a great woman, and committed to be a different kind of dad, raised 3 good children. And the fact is, I would not be here today talking to you if it wouldn't have been for that couple that decided to not mind their own business and to take in my dad. So somebody reached out to a single mother and said, you know what, we can do something here. And they did it like Andrea does. She doesn't do it for personal glory. You don't really want anybody to look at you. There are some folks that do that. Maybe a lot of Hollywood wants look at what I'm doing, but that's not really what it's about. And I don't know. I grew up with that couple that took in my grandmother. We called them Uncle Jeff and Aunt Lindy. I always knew them kind of as that.
That's who they were.
That's who they were, but they weren't related, but they were kind of in my dad's life and in my grandmother's life. And I know for a fact that I'm sitting here today and successful or experiencing any kind of success because of what Uncle Jeff and Aunt Lindy did for my grandmother. And so that sort of propelled us to do this. And I can tell you, we've already had one class graduate, and, we already know their children. Our company's pouring themselves into these single mothers. And it's sort of not knowing the reason the partnership with Andrea is so important. I mean, she's been doing this. We don't really know much about mentoring and loving and caring for single mothers. We know about maybe training them for bank skills, but I don't know. That's the personal connection.
You know, I hear you. We're not going to have a Jerry Maguire moment here. We're not, because when you think about it, the people had every opportunity not to reach out and help. My wife and I, we live by the sort of pay it forward model. They didn't know what they did that day that changed the lives of a bunch of people, some they'd never meet or really didn't understand the impact that they had. So you as an organization, that's in your DNA. You guys are helping. Like you said, it's the money side. You got to have the money. That's why I always joke and say changing the world ain't cheap. Somebody has to put something up because everyone knows the big nonprofits. Everyone knows them. And sometimes organizations are falling over themselves to get to them. We're talking about the smaller ones who are out here who are trying to make magic happen with a staff of one, maybe, and then they have some dedicated volunteers. So the reason that we're here today is because we're here to promote the event that you guys have coming up. Okay, it's that time.
All righty. So it is that time. And Mike, first off, it is so exciting for us because we had our inaugural event in February of 2020. And 2 weeks later is when the pandemic hit and everything went on lockdown. So last year our event was virtual.
It was good.
It
was a blast.
We made it as engaging and as enjoyable as we possibly could. You gotta just keep moving forward, right? You gotta just figure it out and do what you gotta do. But being able to have everybody in person this year and to be able to celebrate and to show the growth and the progress of the organization is beyond meaningful to us. So the engagement, the excitement that we have for this event is over the top this year. And it's going to be one heck of a party.
It is going to be a party. So it's you, Bam is there once again.
Micah will be there as our MC for the third year in a row. And guys, if you have not seen Micah,
in action, when he's in action, it's all over. So last year, is it Kim Wilde from Wicker and
Rebecca Wilde?
Rebecca Wilde.
Yes.
So that was an interesting, her segments there. You guys really took a situation that, the pandemic hit and you were forced to change up and you really made magic happen. This year, we're doing it in person. It's only going to be, who knows what it's going to be.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
When it's going to be a party. Okay. So when is it?
It is Saturday, February 26th. It's going to be held at the Aka Shriners Temple.
Okay.
Don't have to worry about street parking, huge lot, lots of parking, lots of wide open space. So we are making this as safe as we possibly can. We have the Grapevine that will be providing the dinner.
That's good.
Another wonderful, wonderful family and business, long-term established business here in the Richmond area that we so enjoy partnering with and working with. We have PRIMIS, who is going to be our major sponsor at the event. Some other wonderful businesses, Fulton Bank, I don't want to forget anybody, First Bank. We have SBRG Realty, we have the Sanders Group Realty, we have TAW Construction, we have Herman Allen Plumbing.
See, you're good at that.
We have Star General Contracting, just all of these incredible businesses that are so supportive of what we're doing. And please forgive me if I've left somebody out, but we can't do what we do. These things don't happen without the support of individuals and businesses in the community. And this party, this celebration is really an opportunity for us to say thank you and to have all of those in the room together that have been a part of us, that have supported us, that have encouraged us, that have allowed us the opportunity for growth, to meet one another, to recognize one another, and to be able to celebrate with one another the growth and the progress of Forward Foundation.
On the mic with Mike, ESPN Richmond, that's where you find us. It is part of the Mike King Biz Radio Network, which is ESPN Richmond 106.1, 5 to 7 a.m. The Choice 105.3, that's gospel, 2 to 3 every day, as well as International Business Growth Radio, which is Saturdays at 10 a.m. We've taken it and gone global with the idea that business can help society be better and all the great things happening in the Richmond area. So Dennis, I'm going to go back to you once again. So I always talk about culture. That's big in my work. Culture says you guys want to help out. As a CEO, sir, how do you foster the right type of culture, even among change and all those things? Let's talk about culture in an organization for a moment.
All right. Culture is really one of the reasons I even came to this company. They had done a couple mergers, and you sort of bring in a bunch of companies, and what you're bringing in is a couple cultures over here and a couple cultures over there. And sort of they had not merged together as well. It wasn't a crisis, but that's what they wanted. And it turns out culture sort of hinges on leadership. And I don't mean just my position, but really the folks that are around us, sort of the board level and the executive team, really have to be of one accord, and kind of, if they're not getting along, nobody else will. Leadership is what we talk about a lot around here. And, you know, it's hard to sit down and say, Mike, let me tell you what good leadership is, and sort of give you 3 or 4. These are good leadership traits I need to see you exhibit. There's hundreds of leadership traits, so it's hard to do it that way. What's not hard is to see bad leadership.
That's for sure.
I mean, bad leadership, you can you pick it out like that. And the way to positively impact a culture is for the organization to see you taking action when you see bad leadership. So if you see somebody mistreating another employee, or, I mean, we say that, you know, every employee is a child of God and equally deserving of respect. And if you see something that's not congruent with that, you deal with it right away. And that's just on the people side. But, you know, culture, when it comes to being good in the community, being civically minded, doing things like that, they need to see an executive team and a board that embraces that. And a lot of times, many of our employees may not have the time or the resources to do that, or don't even know how to do it. I mean, I think we all have something good in us. We all want to be good. We just need to see what that looks like. You said something about paying it forward. I mean, a lot of times you've gone through the Starbucks drive-through, and somebody's paid for your coffee ahead of you. And now all of a sudden, you know what that looks like.
Yes.
And it feels like. And so that's sort of leading by example. I don't want to be cliche about it, but the organization has to see us having ideas and putting them in action and committing to it.
All right. On the mic with Mike here with the Ford Foundation, as well as the PRIMIS Bank. Let's go back a little bit, dial the clock back. We were 2019. You guys are going to kill it. Everyone's like, okay, this is going to be a big year. So this is a bank. You guys sit around a big table, you know, had it all figured out. And then Corona showed up. What have you learned now that you said before, I don't know if that's going to work, and you realize that it worked and it's going to be part of banking going forward?
I think banking is probably, by the way, February 19th, 2020 is when I showed up, which was 2 weeks before.
Great timing, sir.
Good
There you go.
Yes, sir.
There you go.
But if you go back to 2019, really before that, I think banking is probably one of the last industries, one of the last economic sectors to become more technological or more digital.
Yes.
A lot of customers still go to branches, even though they tell us they don't want to go to branches. COVID hit, and people learned how not to go to branches. And now we're not having to close them all. We're not going to do that. But we're seeing a lot more people forced to choose the digital solution. I mean, I'll give you an example. I mean, before COVID hit, I went to the grocery store.
I did too.
My wife found Instacart. She's like, I'm never going to the grocery store again. I'm like, I'm not embracing that.
I'm not
going to the grocery store.
I was going there with you. So we were the two in the grocery store.
We were.
And then all of a sudden,
I couldn't find evaporated milk. And so I was like, so I went to her app and I found evaporated milk on the app like that. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to start using this technology. And that's really what's happening with banking. So it's slowly becoming a lot more digital and a lot more sort of in your palm than it is in the branch. That's probably one of the bigger changes.
A while back, I had spoken to the CEO of Elephant Insurance, and he said, I asked him the same question. He said, for sure, remote working will not work. He said, I was 100% sure that wouldn't work. 2 months into it, he says, you know what? It worked.
Yeah.
It's something that I thought didn't have a chance that we were able to still keep. And I asked him then, how do you control culture or camaraderie when Bill's here, Sue is there, Mike's over here? We have to do that in a digital space now. So how do you do that among different locations within an organization as big as yours?
It's challenging. And I probably was with the gentleman you were referring to. I was like, no. In fact, I mean,
It ain't gonna work.
2 weeks after the pandemic started, I called some folks. I was like, look, I'm coming back to work. I'll risk it, but I can't sit here in this apartment anymore. I think the advantage, for sure, one of the advantages of this is prior to the pandemic, if we wanted to hire a certain position, a technical position, we would look, well, we want to hire that person in Richmond, or we want to hire that person in Tyson's Corner or something like that. That's where our office is. You kind of limit yourself to the best person in Tyson's Corner. Now, if you're willing to look sort of out all the way to Chicago and all the way down to Miami, you probably can expose yourself to somebody that's even a little more exceptional. If you really pride yourself on hiring the absolute best, the greatest champion you possibly can hire in every position, and you commit yourself to that, you kind of like this remote work thing a little. Turns out, I think the super professional, super technical, career-oriented people, if I hire one and they're in Miami, which we have, they learn how to be just as amazing for us in Miami as if they were right here. So if you're willing to hire at the top of the class, that remote work does not really affect the performance.
There you go. On the mic with Mike Dennis is here with PRIMIS Bank. We're here, good friend of the program, Andrea Starr. Okay, let's go back to your organization. You've had graduation ceremonies. You've changed people's lives. What's it like when you see who came in the door at the beginning and all of a sudden you see the magic happen? Let's talk about that journey.
That is truly the most impactful and empowering part of the work that Ford Foundation does, is being able to see the evolution that happens from the families that we work with, from the time that they walk in our doors until the time that they, are graduating or, have progressed out of the program. But the goal really is that there's never an end. It's about these families that we've been able to support now are
Part of the
empowered
family.
and part of the Ford Foundation family, and are able to then serve as mentors to other families that are coming into the program. But there is nothing more special, more impactful, more gratifying than to see the journey and the emotion and the progress of the families as they are transitioning out of the program and onto a more financially stable ground for themselves and their families. And that's why we do what we do. It's like Dennis said, it's about paying it forward, right? If we as humans, are to support and encourage and be kind and help others in need. And these, with the size of the single parent community, there are 11 million families in America that are single parent families that are raising 19 million children. That's a vast, vast majority of people that are right here, our neighbors, our friends, our coworkers, people that we worship with, all of it surrounds us. It affects everybody.
Let me say that, we'll add something to that. And maybe there's some athletes listening to this show, but they're, and even if you're not an athlete, we all watch sports. So this moment I'm going to explain to you will resonate. There comes a time when you've been training and you've been working, you see all these people at the Olympics right now wanting to be champions. There comes a point where they see themselves as winners. Maybe it was just a small race. Maybe they ran a 5K and they won, and now they's like, oh my gosh, I can be a winner. I mean, there comes a point where you see yourself differently. You see yourself as a winner or as a champion, and the whole world opens up to you at that moment. That's what these single mothers have experienced. I mean, and it's not that they weren't winners before they came in, they just didn't see themselves as that. And when they go home to these 11 million single parents go home to their 19 million children, what's more powerful than that kid looking at their mama and seeing their mama believe that, you know what, I can be a champion. I am a champion. That's nothing's going to infect those kids with hope and a future more than that. And that's really what, I think that's what you were alluding to. I mean, helping them have that moment where they can see themselves as the winners that we know they are.
That's it. So on the mic with Mike, we'd like to thank Dennis and PRIMIS Bank for being supporters of the community. This is outstanding. This allows you to be able to do the things you do, which is change lives. Okay, really quickly, we're running out of time. What's the information about the event once again?
Registration is available on our webpage, which is forwardfoundationva.org. You do need to register ahead of time. The event is Saturday, February 26th, 6 p.m. at the Akka Shriners Temple. And I have to do a shout out to Summit Information Solutions and RVA Fashion Week because I left them out as our sponsors, and I need to make sure that I recognize
Shout
them.
out to my man Jimmy Budd out there really doing some really big things supporting the community. Dennis, how can people find information about your organization?
You can find pretty much anything you want to know about us at primisbank.com. You can find us all over social media. We're not hard to find.
Just Google you.
Google us. You can Google me, or you can Google any of our executive team. We're very public with everything that we're doing. And I think you look us up. I think you'll see that we are a different organization, or at least one that's not afraid to be different.
Thank you for the support of the community. On the mic with Mike, ESPN Richmond, that's where we are. We'd like to thank these fine folks for joining us. We are the best business radio program around. Why? Because we get the best guests. We talk to the game changers, folks who are out there changing the community. My name is Mike King. We'd like to thank you for joining us. As I always say, make sure you take a look at our sponsors and advertisers. The microphone ain't free, plus my grandkids need stuff. So we'll be back next time. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks now. Take care.